What is up, Internet Land? We are back with the Prep
Live.
Masters podcast. My friend Phil is over there. He's in Alaska, and I am in the Ozarks. Phil, how are you?
Yeah. Good. It's hot here. I'm ready for winter.
Dude, it is stupid hot here. I'm ready for a house to be built so that I can winter in a house. So
That'd
I got to take all the warm weather.
Yeah. Right.
But we are making house
Um,
progress and bunker progress. We are just a shameless plug for the YouTube channel. Everybody go check out Free State Homestead on YouTube. We got a bunker build going on where we're going to build a house on top of that. It's going to be great. So you guys should definitely check it out.
Good.
So
Biden fell down again. Broke a
Biden fell
hip
down
or
again.
something.
Did he break the hip? Did he
Or they're
break the
gonna
hip?
It looked bad.
It did. But they got him back
They're
up
not
and
confirming
walking.
any. Looked more like a carried shuffle to me. I think he had some injuries from that one.
Man.
Obviously we should never admit injuries, but
Right.
what are you gonna do? The senile man tripped over a
What
sandbag. At least he did actually trip over something instead of himself.
Right.
Oh, are you
What was
getting my
that?
notification sounds?
Yep, I
You
sure did.
are.
I got that.
Okay.
Sounded
That's
very
not good.
Nintendo. Sounded very Nintendo.
Now I
All
have
you
to
gotta do is get
guess
your
which
phone
one
on
it
the board.
is.
It's the phone.
Yeah,
Your phone is
I
connected
think
Bluetooth
it
to your board. But
was.
I'll
Not
tell
no
you
more.
what. We're just gonna say, hey, we're glad everybody's here. I'm gonna hit our intro and we'll get rolling. Give you 30 seconds to figure out whatever's going on there. All right, everybody, here we go.
Oh,
What is
there it is.
up? Okay, we're good to go.
Now I
We're good to go. We're golden.
we're live.
We are live.
We're live on the internet.
I'm gonna get us
I got the
shared out
notification.
to. Sorry.
You do it.
I'm gonna
So
get us
yeah.
shared out to the Facebook. We haven't been live in like 2.5 months. It's been a long time since we've
It's
been live,
been
so I'm really excited. This is
Yeah.
something we're supposed to be doing on the regular basis. We're supposed to be doing this on the first Friday of the month, but gosh, the last 2 months have been kind of tough, so we have not made it happen. So I'm really, really pumped that you guys are hanging out with us. So this is good.
Yeah, so that means if you want to ask a question, comment, or send a picture, send it to the real Kirk, not me, or post it straight onto YouTube to get us kicked off.
There you go.
I say we do an easy drop. Everybody put pictures of what you're carrying right now. I have to get in my pocket. I am carrying a pocket pistol today. Today's pocket pistol is brought to you by the letter KAHR, KAHR. What do you got?
This is my
GoPro?
this is my
GoPro?
this is my daily carry now that I'm filming a house build.
All right.
Car.
What else? I got a car in this pocket, and I got a Leatherman in the other pocket, and I think I got a 380 on the ankle today.
Speaking of Leatherman, I'm just a little bit sad. They discontinued my all-time favorite Leatherman, the OHT, and it is a spectacular knife, and it makes me sad. So I had to go to eBay. I gave away my Leatherman the other day. I was at a graduation party, and the young man had asked for tools. I did not know that there was a gift request. He had asked people to bring him tools as his graduation gifts, which I thought was super duper rad. And
You buy him a gun.
I was looking. They should have brought him a gun. That's a little out of my budget right now. So, but anyway, uh, I was there and I was like, "Hey, I noticed that you don't have any needle nose pliers in your bag." And he's like, "No, I don't." And I said, "And I noticed you don't have a multi tool." And he's like, "I don't." And I said, "Here you go, man. This I've only had this knife for like 2 months, so you can have it." And so I gave him my Leatherman. It wasn't a fancy Leatherman, but it was a really good excuse to go and buy the Leatherman OHT, which is what I wanted, except
Sure.
for they're discontinued. And so I had to go to eBay and buy a used one, which is kind of better than giving the hippie Portlandia company my money. So I can't complain.
Yeah, that's true. I would probably buy a used Benchmade. I would never let them have a penny of my money again.
Right.
But it was just going to them. Some of their products are pretty good.
Well,
So,
they've got
and I
excellent
still
products. They just got bad ethics.
bad ethics for sure. Well, you know what happens. You get surrounded by communists, and starts to, all that shit starts to wear off on you and make you dirty. And you're surrounded
It's
by
true.
shit.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
It's true. And I
And
gotta tell
Leatherman's
you,
really a lot better. I mean, Leatherman's right there too. Leatherman,
Leatherman's
Filson.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leatherman, Kershaw, Gerber, they're
I
all made in
spent
Portland.
which money did I spend last year? I spent somewhere in the neighborhood of what was it, $4,000 on with Warren for a heavy case M12. It is only 8 months old and completely corroded. Completely, the fair lead has to be replaced. It is so corroded, it's cutting the line. The logos all fell off the winch because they corroded so badly. And there's little specks of rust just everywhere, all over the thing. So
Man, I
it's
would
quite a
take
letdown.
pictures and send it to him.
So yes, I did actually go and make an attempt for a warranty repair or replacement, and was denied. Leatherman no longer
Wait, Leatherman or Warren?
warranty. Sorry, Warren no longer warranties against corrosion.
Wow.
And I was told by a distributor that during COVID, they made compromises with some of their materials due to sourcing issues. And basically, they can't keep up with all the warranty work. So, like everything, don't buy something made in between 2021 or 2020 and 2022. Just don't do it. It's all junk.
I'll just say that my Smittybilt looks and functions wonderfully. Like it's great.
Do they make an 18,000 pound heavy case?
They do that. They make a 20, I believe.
Do they make a 20?
I believe.
If I could get my
I'm running a 12
back.
on my truck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I run 15, I think. Yeah.
yeah, but I think
I would do it if it would fit. Of course, I don't know if it would fit in the bumper. So mine is hidden inside an ARB bumper. But you never know. You never know.
Okay. Well, I definitely think that winches and rescue equipment and recovery equipment is definitely part of the preparedness conversation. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to pull people out of the ditch, how many times I've been able to self-rescue, just because I've had the equipment that I needed. So, honest to goodness,
Safer.
I'd take a
Uh,
I'd take a Badlands winch over no winch at all, but I wouldn't recommend them. I'm not saying
Would
people
I
should.
just would be careful about relying on it. I wouldn't put
Yeah,
myself in a situation where it was my only tool.
right.
I have a Chinesium winch that is on the rear end of my wheeler, so it's a secondary. And it's done okay. I've used it,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I like to travel out. Two is one, and in Alaska, a lot of times three is one. So, I've certainly used those things. I'm a big believer in traction boards, actually. Traction boards
I
are
love
very effective.
I love traction boards. I love traction boards.
So
Yeah,
I have a
I
couple
really
of
do.
different types and brands, but I don't have any traction boards that will work with my big mobile coach, portable office. So 32,000 pounds starts to set a different ball game, as you know. What is your
Yeah.
what's your truck right in at?
My truck is
Your big
like
truck?
my
Yeah, your big
I'm just a 5 ton. My the big truck is a 5 ton.
the
Five
five
and a
ton.
half,
Yeah,
five
what
and a
is
half
it?
ton.
Okay, that's the GVWR or G.
Yeah.
Yeah, GW. Yeah,
Yep. It's
have you been
a
over a
big
scale?
6x6. Which I've never understood why they call it a 6x6. It's really a 3x3, but whatever, whatever. I don't know. So it's six-wheel drive.
Does it not have
Six-wheel
six?
drive. It does have
It does
six-wheel
have
drive.
six wheel drive.
Yeah.
Okay, you
So
don't have. You're saying you have lockers.
yeah, it's all got that
Diff.
CTIS diff connection dealy. So yeah,
Mm.
it's all got that digital transmission. Not digital, but like it's a button operated. Let me say it that way. Button operated hydrostatic transmission. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's a good big truck. In fact, actually, I just fired it up to move it the other day, but I need to um, drive it up and down our new driveway. We just put in our 3-inch minus rock base, and then we will pack when that gets all packed down. Then we'll put road base over the top of that, and then we will put in our nice finished gravel after all the construction is done. But right now, we made a driveway that we can drive pump trucks and concrete trucks and stuff like that down, and it makes me very, very happy. We have a functional driveway. I like that.
That is nice. While we were waiting for breakup to finish and ground to get firm, uh, we got some delays because of weight issues and the old water mattress roads that you roll over. They kind of roll with you as you go.
Yeah, yeah, because you guys
A
were going
little.
to go do a little off-grid stuff. You're going to go do some boondocking and some.
I am supposed to be off grid right now, but Alaskans don't believe in preventative maintenance.
Mm,
So getting like filters and things like that for vehicles up here can be difficult because
okay,
usually people don't replace those things here.
okay,
They just run things until they stop working.
yeah,
So that's been fun, but
that's been
I've
that's
had
been
to
fun.
just go to Lower 48, order directly from Cummins, which has been um, faster, considerably cheaper, and more reliable than all the auto parts stores here. So
That's
Napa,
great.
right? Napa's supposed to specialize in big truck stuff,
Yeah,
and they will
yeah.
give you a discount for twice as much as it's worth. But
Mm.
I had to get a bucket pump, right? So I was doing transmission filters, and I didn't want to run the same pump as I do in oil. I don't want to mix fluids.
Right.
So I needed to do pail pump, right? A 5-gallon pail
Yeah.
or 6, or I think it goes up. I don't remember. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
So I
Yeah.
had bought one Amazon. It took 2 weeks to get it, and it cost about, I think it was $29. And I think it was the exact same pump actually. And for the privilege of that, with my discount, Napa sold it to me for $89,
Yikes.
letting me know the whole time that that was a big discount.
That was a big discount. Well, that sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
I despise those places up here. So
I was gonna say up there. I recently just found a Napa, not about a half an hour from here. We don't
Napa's
have a
good
Napa
friends.
in my town.
They are individually owned.
Yeah, they are. This one
So
is a family owned. They own four in the area, and so you definitely feel the difference when you walk into a franchise store versus a corporate store. The franchise stores are just
right.
so much more motivated to be good customer service.
Yeah. Or bad, like where I'm at. But um what's my exposure doing? It's kind of in and out, in and out. So yeah. It's the Alaskan way.
It's the
So
Alaskan way. It's the Alaskan way. So let's get into some headlines, man. Like you talked about
I may as
during the
well. I think
intro,
there's
we had Uncle Touchy. He fell down again. Did you see the Babylon Bee posted that sandbag that attacks Biden proven to have been involved in January 6th? That's a good time.
U.S. unemployment rate, they are admitting, is 3.7%. So
Man,
that sounds
it's crazy.
that's a little high. Not overly high. Like 5.6 is devastating.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I believe it.
It,
So
it
see.
wasn't like Oregon back in 2002, 2003 when it was like Oregon was like 12% or something insane. It was the worst in the country.
Did you hear about the cows in Ireland?
No, cows in Ireland.
So the government, and I'm just saying government. I'm trying to think, where is it? There is some sort of a policy called Net Zero Britain.
Okay.
Um, Net Zero Britain. It's something to do with climate change and how the island over there is trying to appease the eco terrorists. But Ireland has ordered that their as a whole, their country will cull, as in kill,
Yes.
200,000 dairy cows in order to achieve their climate targets.
Wow.
That doesn't frighten you. The government will just decide that an eco terrorist has decided that we need to offset carbon credits, and so we're going to kill your cows. Good luck on that.
Nuts.
I would definitely be shooting back.
Yeah.
Don't really care, but Trump said something about Israel today. The Navy is hiding the fact that they were very proudly displaying LGBTQ pride flags. I don't know. Who cares? It's really no surprise that people in the Navy have been struggling with homosexuality for a long time. Flagrant.
Oh my. I have a
China is
lot of friends
a
that were
1,000-meter
clearly not that.
deep hole going through 10 continental stratas. I don't know what the significance of that is, but seems like a very bad idea. Center of the earth. Watch the movies. None of them are good.
Right.
So bad idea. Watch the movies. You'll figure it out. This was a big one a couple days ago. I don't know if you heard about this one about Jamie Foxx. Very, very sad news about Jamie Foxx.
No, what happened?
Jamie Foxx. So Jamie Foxx was filming a movie. Part of the pre-production requirement was that all actors and participants had to receive an additional mRNA injection. He had a somewhat immediate reaction and was rushed to the hospital, which I believe was several weeks ago. I remember hearing about that when it happened. Today, they have admitted that he continues to suffer effects and is now paralyzed and appears to be permanently blind. So
What?
the Ouchie Fauci has destroyed Jamie Foxx's career, and I hope he sues the ever-living shit out of them.
He
Probably won't.
can't. It's still an experimental medicine.
You
You
can sue those who forced you to do it.
Oh, well, there's that. That is true. That is a good point.
That's the recourse,
That
is to go after that.
I saw an interesting video this week coming out of the Europarl, like the European Union Parliament, where
Yeah,
one of its officials, uh, Mathis, S. Maltus, sorry. He's
so
one of the Europals. He announced this week that COVID-19 was an act of biological warfare perpetrated on the human race. It was a financial heist. Nature was hijacked. Science was hijacked. So I thought,
sure. Good for them.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, I have heard rumblings of other countries pursuing actions
Good. They should.
and starting to call it out for what it is. But I also read, I'm looking for the story here. China is planning on setting foot on the moon. They are sending people to the moon.
I did hear that.
Yay,
I did
China.
hear that.
The reality is
Go
we should not trust the Chinese to do anything because everything they do badly, and they usually
correct.
cause intense harm in doing it. So whether it's digging to the center of the earth or going to the moon, they seem incapable of doing such things without causing great harm, and that's somewhat concerning to me.
Right. Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I say it's enough for a first strike. We should remove that capability from them. But
Just wipe out their
apparently,
space program.
nobody is asking for my opinion on such things. I don't know
I
why.
would like to one of the news stories that I've seen is less about like an actual official mainstream news, and
Okay.
more about something that I'm just seeing happening in on YouTube. There is an account called Abolitionists Rising, and they do not claim to be pro-life. They claim to be abortion abolitionists, and which I think is really, really cool. And they have some of the most dynamic videos that I have seen recently coming, oh, sorry, dropped my phone. Standing up against the murder of babies. And there, if you want to watch them, like have some really dynamic, like man on the street conversations, you should check out Abolitionists Rising on YouTube. And I'm sure they're going to get banned any second. So check them out soon. They
Okay.
are way cool. They seem to be very Jesus forward, very God and even forgiveness forward, which I appreciate because a lot of those groups are, very unloving to those who are carrying a lot of guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And these guys actually try very hard to be quite loving, and they're very forgiveness forward, but they still call it murder, and they still will look a woman in the eyes and say, "Yeah, but you murdered your baby. I mean, there's forgiveness, and we'd love to walk with you through that, but I mean, you murdered your
Not gonna act
baby
like
like that."
it happened, but yeah,
Yeah,
we all
and
we've
and
all sinned
so
and all fall short of the glory of God. But um,
absolutely,
that doesn't mean we pretend like we didn't, because that's the thing is
absolutely,
one of the requirements of for forgiveness is to acknowledge the fact that it happened and you did it. So
right, right, yes, absolutely, and I think that
sort
the
of
big
part of how that
issue
works.
is I think the big issue that I see them tackling is the idea of calling something evil good.
Mhm.
They are tackling that head on. There is no lukewarmness about them, um, unlike the Foursquare Church, unlike a bunch of other mainline denominations. These guys are actually out there on the streets contending against the thought police, contending against the leftist agenda, and
Mhm.
make no mistake that this is just, I mean, they're never going to let go of abortion because they believe that it's a net positive against climate change because they want to see the population reduced no matter what. So, all that being said, it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah. Good. It's good to hear of people doing that right. There is a lot of animosity and targeting of who oppose murdering babies. So, um, to which I say, you know, fight fire with fire. But
Yes.
um, the have you read Jack Carr's latest release? Are you through that book
Oh
yet?
yeah. Only the dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of came up in the previous book as well. So I'm not going to give away any spoilers here in this, but maybe you can help me talk through this then.
Yeah.
A concept that was introduced, I think it was in the previous book, and then it comes up again in this book. What the latest one was the quantum computer.
Yes.
Okay,
Alice.
so it's an AI. Alice is the name given to the quantum computer that sort of exists in the cloud, right?
Right.
Um, so someone on one of the underground forums that I am in brought my attention to House House Bill 6227 apparently was passed in June 2018, and it was funding and establishing a quantum computer by the military. And that was 5 years ago. All to say, we have such a thing now. And so, as with many things that you will learn with Jack Carr,
He is very
he
factual.
writes
He
an
writes
awful lot of
fiction.
very scary truth.
Yeah, he writes very
Say it that.
factual fiction.
Yes, yes, and he knows. So
He knows things. He knows people and things. That's for sure.
knows,
I'll tell you what. I'll tell
right.
you what was really really hard for me, and they alluded to it in the last book too, but this book as well. And I'm not giving anything away here, but I think that the one thing that it was really hard for me. I mean, I knew, of course, there were always POWs, prisoners of war, that were not rescued. I had no idea how bad it was. I had no idea that we allowed thousands and thousands of soldiers to be extradited to Russia, and out of
That
Vietnam.
apparently is
And,
a truthful thing.
yeah,
Yeah, that apparently happened. That was news to me too. I read it in the book, immediately, dove into that,
yeah,
and kind of went down that rabbit hole a bit of some hate towards our government at the time, and
yeah. Like, I need any
of
more
course,
reasons to hate the
no,
federal government.
and a part of that, Biden was actively serving and a part of it at the time. Like
Yeah,
like a bad egg, man. He just doesn't ever go away.
dude,
You look back
that guy
through
has been
everything in the last like 70 years, he's been a part of
that
the ugliest thing.
that guy has been a part of the sack of shit for so long. Like, for so long, that guy has just been an absolute blight on this country for so
He is.
long. I think
Yep.
really, okay, this is gonna sound very controversial. I'm sure I'm gonna catch hate for this. I think that
Okay.
currently, right now, as a completely lame duck president, he is actually affecting less evil on America, aside from just presenting us as the weakest thing in the history of the universe. But I mean, just like in an actual policymaker, he is affecting less evil upon America in his current role, as arbitrator in chief. I mean,
Other
than he
than
was as a
the
senator.
amount of things he continues to sign off on from the executive branch is just astounding.
Yeah, but all of the if, and I don't believe we'll actually ever see another conservative president. Certainly not one that's not a part of the shadow government. But I don't think we'll ever see a Trump. I don't think we'll ever see a DeSantis. Well, if we do see a DeSantis, it'll be because he is a part. I mean, I hate to say it, there is a strong possibility that he's a part of the Uniparty. But I think that inside of all of that, I think that we'll never see another conservative again. But let's just dream. If we do see another conservative, I think they'll just kill him. Like, I don't think he'll have any. I don't think they'll have any. It'll be another JFK. Even though JFK was a Democrat, he was a dynamic conservative,
Yeah.
comparatively speaking, to the
Well,
Democrats now.
and he was getting ready to hold a lot of three-letter agencies accountable, and he was all about exposing the corruption from within.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
was a very Trump-like figure of the time, actually.
He was.
Very
He was.
controversial, just like Trump. Very, you know, uh, how would you say, a public figure of sort. He was a lot of people saw him as royalty, which is
Yep.
asinine. But I mean, a bootlegging criminal family in power is what he
Sure.
was. But
Sure.
these days, who isn't?
So anyway, but all that being said, highly, highly, highly recommend, if you're watching this and you have not read Only the Dead. I would definitely recommend. I'm actually getting ready to reread it for the second time. It was really great. I was headed to Colorado to do the Young Men's Retreat the day that book dropped. So I just spent like 15, 16 hours of driving, just
Yeah,
nothing but that. I processed that
I
book
did it straight through all of them. Yeah.
in one day. Like I had that book done. It was so good, but now I want to go back and listen to it again because I think I went through it so fast I didn't process half of it.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I
right now
think
I'm in a
well, this was still my favorite, but this
oh
one
yeah,
is right there. I
yeah,
wouldn't even say second favorite. I would say tied for first
yeah.
favorite.
Oh, I think so. Yes, I absolutely think so. Yes. I will say I'm right now I'm not prepared to reveal the series, but I'm listening to a prepper series right now from an author I've never experienced before. I wouldn't call it new. It's been out for a couple of years. I it's new to me.
Yeah, this
And
one I know about it.
so far, if the series continues, it's a box set, so you can get like 20 some hours of listening for one credit. Which I love. You guys have heard me talk about how much I love those. If it keeps going the way it's been going, I will highly recommend it. But I'm not gonna recommend anything. I'm a book and a half into a 5 book series, so I'm not
I
gonna
like to
recommend it.
complete them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not complete, I need to be at least 3/4 of the way through so that I know that there's not any like weird
Well,
sex
you have to
or
let
a-
right,
alphabet
because I have had some good
people.
sat there 3, 4 books in and dropped them and wasn't happy that I had recommended the series. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
I think we've
totally
both been bitten on this show, so I'm just I'm not gonna reveal just yet. But when I finish the series or when I get really close to finishing a series, I will recommend it because there's some really neat components to it. Some really neat armed services components to it. There's some really interesting continuity of government stuff. Yeah, it's really good. So anyway, but I would say that right now, as far as the world of prepping goes, I would I'll just disclose that all of my prepping is going into building a house. Like I'm just got to get my bunker built, get my house built. Like that's my biggest prepping. We're getting ready to pick up a Harvest Right freeze dryer, so we can start processing our own freeze dried food. Of course, we've got the garden going in. My wife and my sister were working on that today. I think they've got something like 20 or 30 tomato plants and those kinds of things. And I've got some raised beds that I'll be building tomorrow. So very excited. Here in the super long growing season, you know, I feel like we're really late getting the garden in. And I've been told by multiple people here, like, nope, this is the perfect time. If you try to plant it at Easter, the big rains just wash everything away. So they say that right now is the perfect time to get that rocking and rolling. So we got peppers and tomatoes and the squashes and all kinds of stuff. We're going to try some straw bale gardening this year, where we're going to impregnate the straw bales that we used around the base of the camper as a wind block with fertilizer. Probably going to spray it down with DEF fluid, actually, um, and uh, and because it's
huh.
urea and it's actually one of the most effective liquid fertilizers. I've been doing a bunch of research, you know, growing with DEF, and so you'll see some videos coming out on Free State Homestead about that. But yeah, so that's where we are right now, and I know you're trying to get out on the road and do some boondocking, do some kind of mock bug out stuff, and just kind of practice your off grid skills and get the boy out doing some training, but got to get you some parts for the
Yeah,
coach.
I've been a little slow on that. Lo- yeah, that's the thing. Lots of waiting on parts. So, um, yeah, I think we'll get there. We're getting soon. We've been focusing on establishing alternate income streams and bartering
Big deal.
lines. Uh, so, what we're seeing in our local community as people are starting to catch on to what's happening in the banking industry. and what the basically the NSA and the Fed are doing to spy on every microtransaction that you have. People are starting to wake up to that finally. It's been going on a long time, but they're just now
Yeah.
kind of realizing it. And I'm seeing larger companies start establish barter. Um, so there is a willful, I will not comply attitude happening where I live, and people around here are looking for ways to um, conduct business in life
Yep.
outside of the. So what we will continue to see, and it'll hit hard here probably by the end of the summer, is the black markets will become more prominent. And
Hmm.
I actually highly encourage everybody listening to start looking around at what you are able to produce that is of value to others, and figuring out who you can trade those products and services to for the things that you need. So as
Right.
hyperinflation continues to be a reality, and on top of hyperinflation, meaning everything costing more than anybody can afford, that coupled with the fact that the federal government will be looking to monitor, tax, and regulate all those
Yeah.
transactions as well.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
uh, make make no mistake, I'm telling you to do something that's going to be illegal.
Yeah.
So we get rid of
Absolutely.
that, but so be careful. You know, like if you have cop friends like we do, don't put them in a position by
Correct.
discussing things that um, push their morals and ethics, or do, because they should make a decision of where they
That's
stand.
right.
But
Yep.
um,
Agreed.
you know,
Agreed.
remind everybody that you know who is in any sort of oath of service that every single one of those oaths include an obligation to not follow unlawful and unconstitutional orders. So
Exactly. Exactly right.
we are well into the territory of unlawful orders happening in our country. So
Buddy, you are not
I shall
joking,
not
man. There's
comply.
some. I just watched it, and interestingly enough, I
Serious.
just watched a video this afternoon. Now, I don't know why anyone would live outside of Chicago. I think that sounds like a terrible place to live. But these people were they were cycling the I'm a big I'm trying to call myself a cyclist. I'm trying to stay fit. And I did a
Uh,
26-mile ride this week. I was very proud of myself. And that was the day after I did a 12-mile ride. So I mean, I did you know 38 miles in 2 days. So I was pretty pumped about that. But anyway, this video was there. There are these trails that kind of go around the I don't remember which Great Lake it is. That is it Superior. Anyway, that's there on the edge of Chicago, and there's really kind of only like one way in,
like,
one way out of this trail series, and these two people they crossed a bridge and they were on a trail, and everybody on that trail is a very high traffic area. The police were standing at the choke point, like you had to go through them. You could you unless you wanted to go miles around out of your way, you had to go through them. They were stopping people, searching their bags, just a random stop and frisk, essentially, checking for alcohol and checking for weapons. Two things that are legal to possess. I mean, granted, you know, Chicago's a totalitarian
maybe
state,
not the
you know, yeah, according to the Constitution. And it was really interesting. There was one of those like a normally I would call her an obnoxious Karen, right? And she's standing there, except she was like one of the good guys. She's standing there, like yelling at people, going, you need to refuse this. Tell them no. This is violating your Fourth Amendment right. You are not allowed. They are not allowed to search you without probable cause. Like tell them no, thank you. And she's like, was yelling at the officers, and she's probably about to get bounced off the pavement. But um,
no.
and it was very, very interesting. And so a lawyer was breaking it down, and he was talking about the difference between, like the Fourth Amendment, legal search and seizure, and then like administrative security, like at an airport where you're like, hey, I have chosen to participate in this travel. So therefore, I have agreed to submit to this. This is a public thoroughfare. This is a public street. This is a public area. That's really a part of a park system. Those kinds of things. They had no administrative search situation going on there. So anyway, they just threw up a sandwich board that just said all bags and pedestrians are subject to search. And these two people on the bikes, they just rode by and they were filming the whole thing, and they just rode by. They didn't even stop and interact with the cops. They just went right by them. But the lady, man, she was a hero, and even the lawyer was like, man, she was nailed it, perfect, And she just stood there right next to the police, talking to the people, going, "Don't let them do this. Don't let them do this. Don't forfeit your rights. Like, don't do this. You can refuse." And it was great. So there you go.
Good deal. Yeah.
I mean, understand that there's going to be trouble.
Oh yeah, no, you will. There's consequences. There are consequences to affirming and exercising your rights. There's no freedom from consequence when it comes to
Nope.
really much of anything anymore. So
Right.
do nothing, there's a consequence. Do one thing or another thing, there's a consequence. There are no free lunches anymore. So
No, they really aren't. They really aren't. But I mean, I think that even if, and especially if you're doing nothing wrong, you are doing nothing illegal, I think at that point, I mean, it is the civil disobedience scenario. It is the no, I will not move to the back of the bus. Like that's and it's unethical for you to ask me to. Those kinds of situations. And I think that we are obligated as both believers and as Americans to stand up to injustice. I think a lot of people talk about, how Romans and, a couple other places in scripture talk about submitting to the government. Okay, except for, there's always the caveat that says unless it's that government is asking you to do something unbiblical. And then also don't forget the context of that was probably aimed at the religious government of the time, and those kinds of things, and or Rome. Okay. But I would say this, that yeah, we are obligated as believers, and we are obligated as Americans to stand up against injustice.
Yeah, but there's a consequence to doing it. So go into it with your eyes wide open.
Consequences. Yeah, the law of unintended consequences, as Skippy would say.
Oh, somebody intends them, but yeah. Where are you at in that series now? Did you?
I'm like book 14 or something like that.
Getting there, yeah.
There's some slow ones. I took a little break. There were a couple slow ones in the middle. The last one was very action packed, and it was great. But
they're all good.
But yeah.
The last book of the series was tough for me, because knowing that it's coming to an end, and yeah.
See, I have a hard time acknowledging things. I have a hard time acknowledging the end of things. Like, I still haven't watched the last half of the Breaking Bad series, the last Breaking Bad series. Like, I just quit. I just refused. I was like, I don't want to acknowledge that this show is over. And so sometimes I just won't.
Like Breaking Bad that sort of glorify or, and that's why I say so. The last season of that series brings some correction, right?
Yeah.
To what was going on within the series that sort of made it appear as if they were glorifying the evil, right?
Same with
which was, I think, what a lot
Sons of Anarchy. Sons of Anarchy was like that too.
Was it? I haven't watched a single one of those shows. I have a friend who's on Mayans, but I haven't watched a single one of those either. So I don't know. That's not my deal. I really, really don't like any of those 1%er biker gang type things. They're so far from reality. And again, during the West Coast choppers, Orange County chopper kind of era, there was this glorification of biker gangs and all that, and it was kind of like a resurgence. And the reality is that's a very ugly world.
Boy, it is.
And even those groups that there are some very confused people that think they're doing good things and call themselves Christians within those, and that Christian groups or Christian whatever. No, at the base level, they're all responsible to a 1%er group, and you cannot call yourself a Christian and then operate underneath a veil of accountability to an evil group. So
Agreed.
don't be delusional about yourself.
Yeah,
same
I
with
think there are
law
a
enforcement.
handful. I think there are a handful of exceptions to that rule. I think the widow's sons, and I think
Mhm.
that CMA, those groups that don't roll full rockers, and they don't run territorial zones, those kinds of things. That are literally just clubs. But
Every one
then
of
but
those
then
is under the umbrella of a 1%er group. CMAs
I
and the
don't know.
Mongols. Well, I know people that have been in them and found the ugly truth. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that those that are doing it know that or
yeah,
are submitting to that themselves, right? Like
yeah.
they're basically they're just naive to it. So they're
Sure.
not individually bad
Yeah,
as people. I think there's lots of
yeah,
good people in it.
yeah.
But I disagree with the idea.
I think that
And
the most important point that I found was I've got a dear friend. His name's Al. He watches the show sometimes, and he rides a Harley every day, and he's a retired law enforcement officer. And I asked him one time, I was like, "Hey, now that you're retired, are you gonna join the Blue Knights?" And he was like, "Because the Blue Knights is a law enforcement based motorcycle club, right? And
same thing.
you have to
Yeah.
have and he just looked at me one day and he goes, I've spent most of my career standing up against 1%ers. Why would I dress up like them? And he's like, he's not about playing dress up.
No.
There's a there's
Yep.
a wonderful well, I shouldn't call him wonderful anymore because he's walked through that whole deconstruction BS. But there's a guy named Peter Mayer, who used to write really great kind of independent Christian music, so it wasn't like K-Love bullcrap. And he talked about he wrote a song about being I think one verse is about being a dentist. But I put my little earring in and my leather chaps on, and for the weekend I pretend to be like a biker, and I'd climb on my $40,000 Harley Davidson, and then and it's like but I'm the best CPA you'll ever what I mean it was just a really super duper funny on my $40,000 Harley Davidson, and I was like, oh man, this is great, I love it, this is awesome. So he was busting those guys balls pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it all goes back towards most the desires of our heart, and most of us will find this to be true in one way or the other. We long for freedom in one way or the other, and the riding of a motorcycle, right, is a very symbolic of freedom.
Right.
And at the same time, so we want to be individuals who are free but accepted and a part of something. And because that sort of idea or concept captures so many of those things, it's understandably has an allure. And so
Yeah.
hey, I like to ride motorcycles with my friends too.
I think it falls into the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When you talk about, shelter, air,
Yeah,
food,
there's
clothing, and like affiliation. I mean, I feel like affiliation is up there on the list in the top five.
the affirmation is the step. So affirmation and acceptance of peers. It's one of the
Right. Right.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going the wrong,
So
yeah, on toward the top. But yeah, and that'd be a great conversation too. There's a great psychological and theological conversation about Maslow, in the realm of Christianity and acceptance of whether there's even a place for that that model within Christendom. Um,
right.
I've seen some good arguments,
Yeah.
but
No, I
yeah,
think absolutely so.
so not that my Bible college didn't push it because I think they all do. So
Right.
they certainly do in the Baptists. Uh, so I did a lot of Baptist theology. That was fun. New Testament and Holy Spirit. Actually, there's more Holy Spirit stuff in the Old Testament if you get down to it. I mean, Daniel
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and you know, but
Absolutely.
yeah, and I just love
Absolutely.
messing with Bible and rocking their world. So
I was just talking to a family the other day that was talking about sending their kid to Grand Junction or Grand Canyon University. I was like, no,
no,
communist
no,
indoctrination camp.
it's bad. Yeah, yeah, they push Q theory bad
Yeah.
as foundational theology. Um, yeah, if you're not familiar, I don't know if I could do a good summary of Q theory. So if you're not familiar with it, maybe back me up here if you know the details. But
I
it's the
am.
idea that there's um, another um, disciple, right? That was like a central disciple, and that all the gospels are essentially written from one person, and
Right.
there's this other person. Um, yeah, fill in the gaps here for me and help me out. But it's very anti-biblical. It
Yeah.
really
So
the
essentially that
Holy
there was
Spirit.
the Q theory is really circles around the Q document. Okay, so you'll hear people talk about the Q document and the Q document, and we're not talking about Q as in QAnon, bullcrap and American stuff. That's not what this is about. So
No,
the
it's
Q
actually
document
supposed to be like Q from
is essentially the literary root of all of the
yeah.
gospels. So
There you go.
they claim Q folks, the theological worlds claim
Yeah,
that all the gospels were derivatives and or inspired by the
the
one
one dot.
Q document. It's why
Right.
Matthew, Mark,
So
and
it's
Luke,
similar.
or I'm sorry, Matthew, Mark, and Luke are so similar. The synoptic
Mhm.
gospels, and then then there's quite a bit of debate that John, was the one that was the outlier that didn't utilize the Q document. Those kinds of things, and a lot of people, they like to speculate. Well, was it Paul? Was it the author of Hebrews? Those kinds of things. Because for those of you who don't know, Paul did not write the book of Hebrews, even though people like to debate about that. I don't know who wrote it, but I think she was really cool. And and so, but anyway, I think that and so they
It
think that
really.
that good.
Well,
So
I was
that's
just going to
that's
say. So if you compare it to Q in Star Trek, in that there's this removed,
kind of
pop in, pop out mystical figure that is all knowing and all sharing and all influencing. Just imagine that character popped into the with the disciples and Jesus, and
sure.
then years later in the writing of the works, and that comes pretty close to Q theory. So
Yep.
there are a lot of Bible colleges today preaching it as absolute truth. It's required
Right.
that you write multiple papers supporting a theory in order to graduate.
Right.
And I discovered the hard and very expensive way that Grand Canyon University was one of those. And I took a
Agreed.
stand, my case to the dean, and the dean said, shut up and color or get the fuck out. And so I
Right.
chose the get the fuck out method.
After
And
you
they kept
after
all my
you had
credit.
invested quite the amount of time and money
It was
doing
like my
so. I
third
mean,
term with them. I think it was my third
yeah.
term for that master's program.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a fair
Yeah.
amount invested with them.
I mean, you only had what,
So
two more to get your master's? Is that how that worked? Is that what it was, two more terms?
2 terms, and except that the last term was going to be impossible, so probably 3 terms.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was a
yeah. There you go. There
class
you go.
term, which also with the third class being that um, master document. So
And I think
um,
that this is actually, I think this is actually a really good conversation to have. Like, I know this kind of came about organically, but I mean, it's summertime. You know,
mm,
a lot of kids are graduating. West Coast kids are just about to graduate. They haven't graduated yet. Our kids are just graduated here in the Ozarks. Um, and a lot of people are getting ready to send their kids off to school. Now is a really good time. In fact, you're a little too late, to be really honest with you, but now is a really good time to take a serious look at how entrenched equity, diversity, and inclusion is ingrained into the school you're sending your kid to. I will just tell
mm,
you that I know so many people. Okay, so many people. I don't have permission to list any names on this show, but I know so many people who have lost their children. They sent Jesus following, faith based kids to college, and they got leftist pagans back.
yeah,
And they parked their salvation, they parked their faith, they parked their belief system, they parked their family heritage, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm not trying to be make you fearful, except for I want you to be afraid for the souls and the hearts of your children. And in the realm of preparedness, I want you to prepare your kids by sending them to schools that are going to accentuate the gospel. And I'm not saying you need to send them off to cheesy Christian
I wish
schools,
I
and there's
knew.
a lot of them out
I
there.
wish I knew what school that was. The reality is that I don't have a single good recommendation to give. Um,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know if there
tough.
are any good ones left.
Your kids can
Even
go. Your
within our
kids
own
can go online.
I would struggle. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. The staying involved is the absolute only way to get ahead of that. I
I
mean, I
would
wouldn't
say I
send
would
anybody down to that's for sure.
I
Um,
would say this. Like if you like let's take Oregon as a cross section. Okay. You know, if you start with the University of Oregon, okay, their business is to create wild-eyed activists. That is their business. Their business is to chew up and spit out social activists. All right. Now you look across the state. Are Oregon State still very much going to have leftist policy? Absolutely, but their business is generating really great engineers.
busy.
Um, uh,
Yeah, they want
they're
business for the world. They're
their
trying to
their business. So generally speaking, there are two public colleges in most every state. One is going to be certainly more agricultural, technical. One is going to be way more industrial. I would say, even if your kid wants to go get a degree in underwater basket weaving, at least send them to the school that is going to give them a shot at surviving. I don't know who's thumbs upping, but thank you, whoever that was. I'll take that as an amen. But anyway, I would just say that you need to be very, very careful. But listen, don't make any mistakes. I mean, like right now, I mean, so if we stay in Oregon, you might think to yourself, well, I'll send my kid to George Fox University because it's a Christian school. And I would tell you right now that that school is as left or as corrupted as Oregon State. You might as well just send your kid to Oregon State University and just let them go do drugs and party because
Imagine
George
some.
Fox is going to actively attack your kids' theological base. Like they're going to
Time.
actively attack. I mean, their
They
business
will.
is creating lukewarm believers. Like that's the George Fox's business model, is creating lukewarm. It didn't used to be that way. I mean, used to, when my wife was there, when
Always
my
been
friends were there, was
sure.
it was it left? It was certainly left. Okay, I'll say it all day. It was certainly left. But they had guys like Brennan Manning, coming in and preaching the gospel. They had amazing chapel services, and now it's this hippy dippy BS. And they're always leaning on us because my wife's an alumni to donate money, and it's like we already donated. Like knocking on the door, $70,000. Thanks, we aren't giving you any more money, and we're not going to pay for the communist indoctrination of children. So there are really solid Christian universities. Liberty is certainly better than most. I'm not saying that it's perfect. It's not. But
I know.
my friend is going to med school through Liberty, and he is encouraged to hold on to his creation-based theology. He is encouraged to be a Jesus forward doctor. So like he has never felt like they have attacked his faith in any way, shape, or form, which I dynamically appreciate. Okay. So, and then there are other very conservative Christian universities. I'm not going to make a lot of recommendations because I'm not going to have you calling me up later going, "Hey, but my kid went there and they don't know Jesus anymore."
Yeah.
You need to do the research. Let me just say this. This is going to sound very harsh.
Well,
Moms,
let's get back to Mike Rowe, right?
yeah,
Don't you send your children to an institution of supposed learning blindly. You don't just
right,
send people to a school in order for them to go to school. Even all the way
right,
down to the high school level now, you need to have a plan. No more can we afford to allow your children this ridiculousness that they want to do of this. I don't know what I want to do, blah, blah, I don't know what I'm called to. I don't know any of this. I don't know. Well, then dig some ditches until you know.
right,
Because there are some great ways to find out what you don't want to do. I figured
yeah,
out really quick that I didn't want to be an iron worker
right.
because I was connecting steel in the snow in July, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes while it was snowing. And I said, I don't think I want to do this.
That's
There are
awesome.
ways that you can discover how, what things you don't want to do. And one of the
Yes.
best ways is to do something. So, generic,
Hmm.
well, we'll just go get a generic associate's degree. Well, you may not get your child back.
Yeah.
Um, I don't recommend that anymore. And stick to trade school. So think about what's happening. This is the Prep Pastor Show. We want you to be prepped for what's coming. And one of the things that is coming is a completely different economy,
Yep.
where what is valued in trades and skills is going to be different today than it will be tomorrow. And
Yes.
so be smart, be wise, look at what's happening tomorrow, and advise your children wisely and yourself as
100%.
well. So you are still within the work system. If you are going to be working for another 20 years, if you have 20 years of useful work left in you, which most of us do, then you need to evaluate whether what you're doing right now is going to be lucrative or sustainable.
Yeah.
And for 20 years, um, or going away perhaps, or changing, or no longer able to sustain your direction and calling for life.
Right.
So
Right.
figure that out, relocate now. We've been saying for 2 years, if you need to get out of where you are, you better hurry up,
Yeah.
because the time to be able to do it is coming to a close. And we're now in that time where getting property, safe places to live and work are very difficult these days. So
Right.
congratulations once again. We were right. I hope some people listen.
I hope so. I hope so. Well,
I
hey,
just had a
listen, nothing.
conversation with last night extensively about a whole lot of things. And he's just like, I'm so tired of being right. And I said, anymore, I just send links to the videos where I said it 2 years ago.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, that's a
Oh
great
man.
place to wrap up. We're right over an hour right now. So that's a great place. I think that was a super great last word. Guard your kids,
What's
you
our
guys.
recommendation right now? Guard your kids. I like that one. Yeah. Guard your kids.
Guard your
Protect
kids.
innocence. Educate them wisely in
Yes.
the ways of the world that we are in now and the world that is coming.
Yeah. And on that note, get prepped.
Yeah, it's probably too late.